Because I was gonna share you something else today.
I don't know if I really had a take on it, considering it was. I mean, I think I gave my take in the video, so I don't think there's much more for me to say on it. But what was it you can?
So I was gonna say, like as a Muslim, I believe in there is a God, and often we come here to park to share the belief of Islam, and we believe this is a very compelling evidence. We have a lot of compelling evidences to believe in this message, because look, all of the matter we believe is unseen matters, and unseen matters how we conclude is through the evidences that we have and applying our rational faculties. So we believe aql and naql, which is the reasoning and revelation, to go hand in hand together. I'm not sure, have you come across this idea?
There's a book I've read, it's called How the World Thinks, and it's about the sort of different schools of philosophy around the world. Some parts of the world more than others, because some parts do a lot more writing than others.
Yeah.
But there's largely like the West, the Islamic world, India, and East Asia. Those are the four main ones. And it's a great civilization.
What's the book called?
How the World Thinks. And so it talks about, for instance, like how each society regards us as having a basis for knowledge. And so in the Western tradition, knowledge and truth is largely obtained through a kind of analytical, logical process of deduction and discussion. So Socrates, for instance, would go around asking people questions and to find out their principles. Then he asked questions about the principles and try and break it down and say, well, this and this therefore means that. And talk about how in the Islamic world, truth is primarily attained through divine revelation, and reason is something that God grants us to fill in the blanks and to work out the details and to better comprehend it. Would you regard that as a correct?
So basically, Alfie, partially correct. So what we believe in aql and naql, and the combination of the aql is something called reasoning, and in order to reason, we need to have those sensory abilities, like sensory, the eyes, the ears, empirical. The sensory reasoning, like you have eyes, you have ear, you think, reflect, and making reason, right? So all those sensory reasoning abilities that human being possess. So the creator created with rationally, logically sound-minded, and given us an ability to use these intellectual things in day-to-day life. For example, Alfie, when I came out from my home, I used jacket because my brain is telling me that it's cold outside, and then I looked at the temperature is also down. So it's too cold out there not to have a jacket, right? So the idea in Islamic tradition is your aql indicating a naql, means I know in one point I will be limited. I do not know my existential question through my limited ability and sensory reasoning. So therefore my ability is telling me, my reason telling me that I am not a product of nothingness, nor I am a self-creation. So therefore there must be something, and then how did that something define itself? Then I need to know from the external sources. This is where my, which is aql, indicating to the naql. And then when the naql comes, we need to verify, the methodology you're mentioning. In Islam, we have highly scrutinized field of how we assess our documents about, let's say, for example, Quran. So if someone say, how do you know is authentic, right? So we have something in Islam that unlike anything we know in this current world, that in terms of the preservation of the Quran, and we call it the chain of narration. The chain of narration goes like that, Alfie. Say Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so he received the revelation from angel, and then he memorized it. And then God is making sure he memorized it correctly. And then he passing down to his companion, and then the companion also learned, memorized, and then Prophet asked them to recite it back. Then once Prophet is happy, with the process of memorization, Prophet said, okay, teach the next generation exactly the same way I taught you. And this process of teaching of Quran has till today available, and we can find those people, like if you go to a memorizer of the Quran, you can trace back his teacher to Prophet Muhammad all the way, and those people in between who taught Quran in between this line, and that is called, we call isnad, the chain of transmission. So this is one kind of assurance for a believer that, okay, when applying my naql, like aql, my naql, which is naql through revelation, that this revelation is not just suddenly came from out of the blue, rather it has a chain of narration, and we can trace back their, not only we know who they are, we know their biography, and this biography has been recorded in Ilm al-Rijal, the chain of man. So, and then from that onwards we know for the surety, and it's a mutawatir, mass transmission. So it's not like one chain came from Prophet to directly to Saudi. No, all over the world the chain reached out, and the Quran has been passed down to transmission. And then we say, yes, this is the methodology we applying in our Islamic tradition to know that yes, it is indeed from Prophet Muhammad. So the idea, I mean, this type of checks are therefore to make sure that we have authentically preserved the tradition.
And as I understand it, it says in the Quran, you know, if you
does it make sense though? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And as I understand it, it says in the Quran, you know, that if you question its validity and its divine authenticity, then you know, try and find contradictions.
Correct,
and
yeah.
try and find a sort of human work that is better.
So basically, it talks about in chapter 4, verse 82. Yeah, Allah saying they find a contradiction. Basically, I'm paraphrasing it. أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوه فيه اختلافا كثيرا. Yeah? So let me, because I don't want to quote the mistranslation, I've recited from Arabic, which is chapter 482. Yeah, because you know this is God's words. You know, I don't want to misquote something. You know.
Yeah, that's not. That's not,
and I'm not very good at, you know, exact in 84. Yeah, 82. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So he said, do they not reflect on the Quran? Had it been from anyone other than God, they would have certainly found in it many inconsistencies or contradictions. So basically the challenge is there to show the authenticity of the Quran, because this is an objective way to someone can look into it. As a person of intellect would say, look, I do not just take it from someone, Tom, Dick and Harry. I need to be sure of whether this message is indeed from God. And then there are other challenges as well, right? Like another challenges is it's a different challenges. Like Allah is asking, can you create a fly? Fly is the smallest creatures, right? So can you create a fly? So Allah is checking the ability test. A creator to someone who creates things. Now if you're saying Allah is posing the argument that can you create a fly, those who denying God. So there are many level of challenges there, and also in the many challenges. Also Allah tell us that produce a chapter like it. I'm sure you heard this challenge as well.
Yeah, I think that's the quote that I was referring to earlier when I said, you know, if this is you know not from God, then you know produce something that
like it, yeah,
that is sort of more.
Yeah.
Sort of magnificent or brilliant, or however it would be phrased.
Yeah, I think saying produce something like it, looking at the Quranic structure and how Quran explain the things within the Quran itself. Can you find something like it, or can you produce something like it? And then Alfi, you can, I mean, look it up, because Quran actually, Quranic challenge has been looked into by many linguistic scholars from like 14th century onwards, 1500 years on now. And even the best people to challenge Quran was the Arab. because they were master in poetry. So the challenges was given to the best of the generation. Now, if you look at the current language and the current evolvement of Arabic is not in the exact form of before in Arabia in 1500. Language evolves, isn't it? Change. But when we are talking about the Quran has been preserved accurately and exactly how Prophet Muhammad received from Allah. And that shows one of the veracity and the strongest compelling proof that yes, indeed it's from God. So take this message seriously, because Quran often talks about not only challenges, it talks about the faith and the belief and the matter of unseen, and then what will happen when we die, and the question, and then we have the heaven and hellfire based on the deeds and actions someone did in this world. So Quran mentioned that existential question, like those questions I cannot answer through my aql, which is my reasoning. This question has been answered in the Quran. So overall, it's a book of guidance, but guidance in a way that we can verify it whether is it indeed from God or not. And then if evidence leads you to yes, it is indeed from God, then Alfie, it's your choice.
So one thing that I was wondering is how similar is Arabic now and Arabic then in the 7th century in the spoken and the written form? Because that's what I sometimes wonder, is to what extent, how similar is sort of the way that it's written from sort of the modern day Arabic writings?
Yeah, so the Quranic Arabic is different than the normal spoken one. But although you'll find similar words in the Quran, but what the Quran is addressing in a way that, look, if you look at when the Quran came into this Arabia, I wanted to give you a scenario, and which is the scenario of when Arabia, Prophet was living at the time, 1500 years ago. Look, one side they have Persia, and other side is Roman Empire, and in between they have this nomadic life. If you have a nomadic life and if you don't offer something, nobody will come and conquer your land. And if you never conquered, your language never disturbed, means never evolved. It keeps the original language. Now look at London. Because of so many cultures together, even language evolves. Like some of the language you use nowadays, it wasn't used in 10-15 years ago. But Quran is unlike, because when Quran revealed, it was a time where the language is not impacted by the external people. So the actual language or authentic Arabic language was preserved at that time. Now, within that, at that time, there were poets, master of poets, Walid ibn al-Mughira, and many famous poets who are master in Arabic language. And their competition was, they used to admire two things: birth of a baby boy and birth of basically because he will be a poet. They will write, and in the souk with the marketplace, they used to compete one another in producing poetry.
Like
and
a rap battle.
Yeah, kind of. So and they used to stick it on the Kaaba with the walls of Mecca. So. And that shows that, the oral tradition of memorization, they have a good memory, and that oral tradition. So when Quran came to those same audience, they got overwhelmed because of richness of the Quran, because they knew Prophet Muhammad never knew the poetry at all. He was not a poet. So a non-poet, to take all of the poet down through his revelation, it's something completely blown their mind. So much so, they used to eavesdrop to his house to listen to the Quran. It's such beautiful. It's such amazing that it attracts their hearts into listening to the Quran.
is it written fully in poetry? Is it poetry all throughout the Quran?
It's not a poetry and it's not prose, you know. We have 16 types of literacy in Arabic, and they call it Bihar, and the Quran is none like them. If it is like them, someone could say, look, Quran is copied this style. So the Quran, when Quran came, it brings its own unique style, and then telling you produce something like it. If it is copied from one of the type, they would say it's already been copied. Why do you ask us to imitate the challenge?
I've heard it said that it's a lot more beautiful in Arabic
Absolutely.
than in English. And I don't read Arabic. And
Shall we try? Do you want to listen to a few verses? Let me recite it. Yeah.
Okay.
I
won't
want.
mean much to me, but
Yeah.
Arabic
because
can be a very beautiful language to listen to, even if I won't understand. What
Yeah.
you're saying.
So let's say you chose a chapter. Tell me any chapter. And
Hard. It's
Hud,
the least,
yeah.
Yes, Hud, yeah.
yeah. So he's saying here, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The meaning is, in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, and the most gracious. Alif Lam Ra. Yeah. So these are called disjoint letter, Huruf al-Muqatta'at. So, sorry. Let's say. Sorry, let me. Yeah, sorry. Alif Lam Ra. تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. Sorry, this is Yusuf anyway. It doesn't matter. إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. Yeah. So this is so basically Allah said.
It's very pretty. It's very it's very audible.
You know, it directly attached to the heart. Those who consciously listen to it. Allah said, if you listen to the Quran, Allah said, when the Quran has been recited, listen to it, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, so that you can receive mercy. But if you believe in it, that's the question. Now Allah is saying, تِلْكَ آيَاتُ الْكِتَابِ الْمُبِينَ. These are the verses of the clear book. So Quran, Allah is telling that Quran is a clear book. So it defining one of the attributes of the Quran, which is the clear. So it makes things clear to you. Inna anzalna, indeed we have sent it down as an Arabic Quran, literally means recitation, so that you may understand and address us here to the Arabs and by the extension all the humanity. Yeah.
What is Quran? So Bible comes from biblio.
Yeah, the Quran actually means something to be recited or something to be read. So the book, the Quran, the term itself, something to be recited or something to be read.
So that's what Quran means in Arabic,
Quran,
to recite.
Yeah, that's why the preservation of the Quran is also memorized through memorization, because the method is recitation. That's why the method of preservation is recitation, right? And now it's talking about the Joseph story here, and Allah revealed the story of Joseph here.
Is this the one with the cloak, with the multicolored cloak? There are a couple Josephs in the Bible. Is this one of them?
No, this is the son of Israel, which is the Jacob's son, and you know they have 12 tribes. And this is where from the Joseph progeny, from the Judah. Judaism start, and then Islam, we believe Adam is the first man and first prophet. He was a Muslim, someone submit to God. So you see Quranic beauty in terms of how it appealed to the human mind, in terms of its language, in terms of its veracity, in terms of its intellectual engagement. I'm not sure, have you read to the translation?
No, I was actually given a Quran last time I came here. In fact, so I haven't read it. I mean, there's other things I
want to ask you, read a few lines, here, and I want your take on this, Let's say this is called Al-Jasiyah, Let's read this 6th line. What do you think?
In the alternation. So these is the sort of royal we, I know.
Yeah, royal plural. Yeah. So it's not necessarily, you know, that Trinitarian understanding that.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. Yeah.
The God's revelation is like to you, a prophet in truth. So what message will they believe in after denying God's revelation?
Yeah. So what was your take so far? You know, there's there are few statements actually making here. Allah made it. Yeah.
They're saying. I mean, I remember reading. It was by Seneca. Oh yeah, is there something about leaving the Quran out in the rain? Because I know you're not supposed to leave it on the floor. Is there something like if it gets rained on, is that also sacrilegious, or is that not a problem?
Do you mean leaving the Quran itself in the rain, or?
Well, I was just saying, when it started to rain, you closed the book, and I was wondering if that was you trying to like protect it from getting damp.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, out of respect. Yeah, this is not like out of respect because we don't want to make it wet. So, Quran here, Allah's talking about the rain. Yeah, rain. Allah used for many different reasons. One of the things Allah saying, when I send rain, and you can see the dead come out of life, means when you see a debris, dead land, you know, and when the rain comes, you see plants started growing, and this is an example. Allah is telling, look at outside of you can see the resurrection in your own eyes. So Allah is saying this is an example, just like you witness your own example. Like for example, Allah is telling that you were non-existent in one point of time and I bring you into existence. So once you die, you will be disintegrated, you will be nowhere in the scene of the universe, but God will resurrect you back the same way that He brings you in first place. So these existential questions reasonably explained into the mind of the human being so that you can engage. That's why we say in the first premise, the aql and naql, which is the reason and revelation go hand in hand together.
So I mean, we're going the Quran, and you were talking about the details of how it came about, and how the prophet, well, what he was like and what he did or didn't do, could or couldn't do, and people coming to his house to listen to it. Is that all in the Hadith?
Yeah, that is in the Hadith, and also in the Quran. Also in the Quran, Allah said, وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ تَقُومُ أَدْنَى مِنْ ثُلُثَيِ اللَّيْلِ وَنِصْفَهُ وَثُلُثَهُ وَطَائِفَةٌ مِنَ الَّذِينَ مَعَكَ وَاللَّهُ يُقَدِّرُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ. That you, O Prophet, and with your companion, you stand in half of the night or 1/3 of the night with your companion, reciting the Quran and doing prayer. So the idea of Quran's practice is mentioned in the Quran. And Allah saying, Allah constantly saying, this is a book of guidance. وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Recite Quran with best of tartil, which is attention, sincerity, and all of these things. So yes, it's totally clearly explained in the Quran as well, and the Hadith. Hadith, of course, go back to the story of how each companion's situation when they heard, and some of them got shocked. Some of them got shocked, and they said, "This is not a mahadha qal bashar. This is not a word of a human being." So that shows that even though they are the master of this language, yet it's so profound that it cannot be reasonably challenged, in a sense that they are completely unaware where did it come from. And that's why they started to telling Prophet madman, because the moment you cannot refute objectively, you can give those activities. Oh, he's crazy, he's deluded, and Allah constantly refute those ideas. When they told him he's deluded, And Allah saying, no, he's not deluded. وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى. Your companion, Prophet Muhammad, was not a deluded person. So when he was telling he was a majnoon, Allah also refuted he was not a majnoon. Then they were said he is a sha'ir, which is the a poet. And Allah saying he's not a poet.
So yeah, I mean, it's I find there's an interesting comparison or parallel between between how in
oh my goodness, the rain is quite heavy now, right, Alfie?
Yeah.
I think
in the Hadith, they seem to have said that he was illiterate.
Yeah.
And at least one of the early church fathers said that about Jesus, that he was not literate. That this is in response to a sort of pagan critic who had said like, oh well, these things that Jesus is saying, these are similar to what Greek philosophers have said.
Yeah.
So he could have gotten this from them.
Yeah.
And they said, oh well, he's illiterate, so he couldn't have read it. Yeah,
so this is in the Quran as well. In chapter 29, 48 onwards, Allah mentioned "La takhuttu biyaminik," that neither you know or you basically Allah I'm paraphrasing it. So Allah is saying that you are not literate, basically. You don't know how to read or write, so that people would have doubted you. You see, so I think let's close it. It's quite heavy now.
Yeah, I think this is Allah.
We'll catch up next.
Like,
shall we continue next week? It was a. If you are around, then we can continue. It was nice talking to you, Alfie.
What's your name again?
Aziz.
Aziz.
It's nice to catch up with you. Yeah. Thank you, Alfie.
I was considering when I was